For you, for me too, spiritual freedom. Spiritual freedom has little or nothing to do with religious freedom. Religious freedom is you being able to follow this or that religion that is in your region. So, spiritual freedom is something intimate. It's yours, it's mine if you want. If you don't want to, you will have religious freedom and you will follow a religion without having spiritual freedom. You will be a follower. I will explain this slowly throughout today's live. So, spiritual freedom. We have to know well how the processes occur inside the head of each individual, including you, including me, but throughout all past generations and cultures. There is no point in analyzing only ourselves in this culture at this moment, in this way of being. No. Analyze all cultures and get a general idea of how we function. Let's go. First important thing, different. When I discovered this, I read it in a book. I don't know which book I discovered it or read it. It gave me this insight when I discovered this. I was even a little bit disturbed. I was disturbed. I was like, man, what's going on? Where did I miss the boat? The sentence is as follows. I looked for the author of this sentence. I think this sentence came from my head, so the author seems to be me. You are tamed by the choices you don't have. Baudrillard, you were domesticated, you were canned, you were imprisoned by the lack of choices in your childhood. This is how we put people into ghettos, into short-sighted visions of being. You put a child in any culture, and then you give them a lot of options, many options. Minus those, minus some. The hollow, the emptiness, the hole, the thing not presented to a child for him to choose, or the stimulus not presented to the child, will give this cultural formation. So the person practically thinks he is choosing, always choosing, so he gets lost in the choices. How many choices, Jackson? Oh, 3 choices is fine. But scientific studies show that if you have 5 choices, plus or minus 2 or 7 or 3 or 5 or 4 or 6, it suits you well. So in childhood, you are domesticated by the choices you don't have. You were domesticated by the lack of choices in your childhood. This is how we domesticate people. This is how we align people with a culture. We give children the option to choose, but these options exclude some that I don't want them to go to, be, or choose. And if they have a certain tendency, I don't let them choose. Leo? Clear example, very clear for you to understand. You give the child a choice at some point. Let's suppose that, I don't know, you are religious and you want to take your child who is 4 or 5 years old to the religion that you think is right for him, her, that everyone does. But the child doesn't want to go. The child doesn't want to. That's the first mistake. Then you give her a choice. You give her 5 choices. A 4-year-old with 5 choices, that's great. First choice bad, second choice bad, third choice bad. Fourth choice, go to the little church, go to the religious ritual. Fifth choice, bad again. Oh, she goes to the ritual. Did you notice? And so you will shape children through the absence of good choices. She didn't have a good choice. Choices are already conditioned. Something so original, right? If you look at some networks, some sources of information, there is specific information there, only this information. The information is selected, you will be left without freedom of choice. And when you don't have freedom of choice in topics, you are being canned. You are losing spiritual freedom because you are closing yourself off. You have access or choices, but never ones that free you. It is always focused on that one, on your micro group. I don't know what, the micro group that only has. I don't know if you're a vegetarian, just a vegetarian, there's no way to have another choice because there's no option to have another choice. Spiritists don't have another option. No, there's just that language like that. So you're going to condition yourself, you're going to lose your spiritual freedom because you're a follower of a group that selects what to choose. But that's how it was with us when we were kids. If you are in Brazil, I can say, oh, 90% of Brazilians must be Christians. Yes, see, after 1500. Before 1500, no, it wasn't Christian. It wasn't Christian. It simply wasn't. So, did you notice the difference? Christianity, religion, and came? Spiritual freedom has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with you. So, I think we'll try to work on it today. I don't know if I'll be able to because it's a really complex topic. It makes my back twitch. Talk about complexity. Let's talk about the origins, shall we? What is the origin of religion? How does religion begin? What is your view of religion? One of the things I highly recommend you read very, very, very much is this book, Humanity. Read it, read it. And another book that I highly recommend, which will make your mind very clear, is this one here that contains a lot of scientific articles, The Awakening of Everything. It was in The Awakening of Everything that he did a survey of papers and publications in Europe before the European invasion of the Americas, and words like freedom did not exist. So the Enlightenment was very much based on what the Amerindians of the American continent passed on to the Europeans. So it's a very cool thing. He shows it with documents. How does religion begin? What is the moment mainly for you? I want your spiritual freedom. I want your freedom. I want my spiritual freedom. So nothing is nobler than focusing on you. So let's go. The origins are the egg moment. What is the egg moment? The egg moment. When you became an egg, you were a cell, just an egg. That is the moment. And the moment before the egg moment has something very beautiful to talk about. Everyone has their own path. We're even talking about the path of the sperm itself, in this case, to make the egg become an egg. Everyone has their own path. If you follow the one who succeeded, you are wasting your life. Let's go. Egg moment. Egg moment is when the sperm enters the egg and there is an egg. It closes. Nothing else goes in. It gets stuck. It is an individual's opportunity and it closed the individual. That opportunity, if you follow someone who made it, you are wasting your life. Yes, but most cults are like, do as I do. If you do as I do, you will do well. You give him the money and you have your life. If you follow someone who managed to get into the golden egg of your capitalism, of your lifestyle, you are wasting your life. You have to have your creativity, your way. Go there, take a look, copy a little here, a little there, but don't follow. You copy, redo, recreate, don't follow. Following someone who made it is never going to make it. Understand, because this person who succeeded, he already got there, he already has his business, and you will follow, you will be a client of his business, you will spend, you will lose your spiritual freedom. Jackson, what are you trying to say? That this golden moment that someone else achieved, I can't have? No, I'm saying that you have it, that you are transcendent, that you are an enlightened being, that you are a powerful being, but maybe you are not, you just are. And you are not because you are blocked by a lot of language. And that is what we are going to try to remove. So you can follow your religion, your religiosity, the way you want, because that is good for a lot of people. But spiritual freedom depends on you, on yourself, and without following anything. It is the part where you have the originality of being. It's the part where you're basically the creator of ideas. Do you understand? Of concepts, you're free. Of being, a spiritual freedom. The spiritual has a lot to do with ideas, concepts, habits. Do you understand things? I'll show you in a little while. If the egg is there, then it is there in the egg. If you are listening to this live now and it is not an artificial intelligence, you see, since the egg has been duplicating, duplicating, duplicating. So from the moment the egg, if the conditions around the egg and inside the egg have a neurope, the appropriate conditions for reproduction, for the evolution of life, for the development of life, which I call neurope. This is a term that comes from the Yanomami, but this term is very beautiful because the neurope, when it is outside, the trees grow, everything sprouts. If the neurope dries up, it becomes a desert. Inside a cell, the same thing. The egg having the neurope, what happens? It starts to become human by duplicating. It keeps duplicating, duplicating, and becoming a human being. Of course, it goes through a lot of phases inside the mother's womb, then outside, but it keeps duplicating. And in this concept of spiritual freedom, the citizen himself or yourself in the good conditions of your community with culture, with religiosity, without any problem. But there, in the conditions suitable for you, you will continue to be a good human being. Understand, it's this little book here. Look, he researched all the theories and ideas that say that human beings are evil by nature. And he saw bias in scientific work, a tendency to prove that they are evil by forcing the work. So read this book. If human beings are treated with dignity from birth, statistically they will be good human beings, but there are bad people. If human beings are treated with dignity from birth, they will be good human beings statistically. Out of every million, I don't know, 999,000 will be good. He'll be good, but it's not. So we have a problem with the state that is losing something, and in a little while we will see in the duplication of the egg, belonging came. It duplicates, duplicates, duplicates. At some point in this duplication, there is a belonging that in some way the cell perceives and it differentiates. Did you notice? At some point, the cell perceives and it differentiates. When it differentiates, there is a new condition in that place. What is a new condition in the differentiated place? When a cell differentiates, since you were an egg, sometimes that cell is now going to become more. It will become a stomach, it will become a bone, it will become a brain, it will become, I don't know, skin. Do you understand? If it is the cerebral cortex and the skin, it comes from the same place. It comes from the ectoderm. Do you understand? It keeps changing, and these places, some of the places inside you need to differentiate. The cells need to differentiate. Just like the citizen who differentiates himself. People, humans will, every human being is different from one another, and each one has a specific and differentiated need. And then the system will protect this individual so that this individual has spiritual freedom. If he doesn't have it, he will have to run after something, or it is to seek belonging in a very strong way. Each individual has his axis, his way of being, his ability to express himself, his ability to communicate with others, his way, his manner, and so on. Man or woman, woman. It doesn't open up a lot of conditions for being. And if you say woman is like this, man is like this, that's that dual bias of right and wrong. That doesn't exist anymore. That dual, it's over. This duel is over. There is no longer this duel, right and wrong. Things are more complex. The differences between people are very big. It doesn't fit into a classification from 1 to 10. No, it's free. It's free. And then comes creativity. Why does each human being have their own differences from others? Jackson, you spoke about spiritual freedom. Talk about it. I'm interested. I want to free myself. There's spiritual freedom, freeing my soul. Spiritual freedom has to do with freeing the soul. Spirit has to do with your ideas. Every month there is an idea, habits, belief, faith. These are spirits. The spirit of faith, the spirit of habit, of belief, of idea, of thought. Do you understand? There is the spirit, but when you put Spiritual freedom. You will let your soul be free because this soul will be able to have many different ideas. There is no idea that it cannot have. Is it free? Remember when I talked about freedom? Think about it this way. The soul is when the spirit touches your emotional part. You are here. You have ideas that sometimes make you cry. When you have an idea that makes you cry, you become a soul in that moment that cries. You have ideas that make you laugh. It's a soul that laughs, but you have the freedom for those ideas, for those memories to come. You have the freedom, so your soul is free. No, I can't feel this. I can't do that because I'm afraid. You have lost your freedom. Your soul is restricted. You don't even have the freedom to feel. Those who don't have the freedom to feel are in a very complicated situation. Let's talk about 3 years of age. I said about being an egg, 3 years of age, and you'll reach the maximum of this freedom that I try to pass on to people, but I don't always succeed. I'm trying again today. Let's see if we can achieve something. Let's go. First, there is a baby, from the baby until about, I don't know exactly, 3 years of age. You from the mother's womb until you leave the mother's womb and are 3 years old. That's it, you're free. I know you won't remember, I don't remember. Some even remember some details. I have some little video, but you're watching. This baby, he has two options to perceive. One, inside the skin. Two, another very important thing. I always tell you when we cut out, there are two perceptions. This is a cut out of the whole. This usually loses data. We cut out so that you can understand. After you understand, throw the cut out. It's not worth it. It's important because I also say it. We're going to try to explain something by cutting it out. Look, the baby has two perceptions, one outside the skin and one inside the skin. So I'll explain something to you in a little while. Then you throw away that cutout. That cutout loses data. Let's go. When the baby's cut is outside the skin, 2, 3 years, 1 year outside the skin, he is in spiritual transcendence. He is in the body territory. He is in metanoia. He is in epiphany. He is in miracle. He is in the role of that paper, rock, scissors. The role is when you leave the body, when you look at yourself from the outside. This is spiritual transcendence. When you are in praise at your church, singing with the church that is full of praise, or meditating quietly, and you leave your body, you feel that a gift from the Holy Spirit has come, a nirvana, something has come at that moment. It has given you an unconscious consciousness. Wow, this moment is the moment of transcendence where you perceive yourself outside your skin, but it is not perceiving yourself outside, you perceive yourself as the whole. This happens many times in people's dreams, but in some states that people are in during meditation, praise, rituals, or exercises that are tiring, a long walk that even makes you tired, the person becomes tired and tries again. Those kind of spiritualized walks, this tiredness, it goes on, it keeps going, and suddenly the person, oh, you see the mountain, you see everything, because the tiredness is greater and he leaves. He has the perception outside the skin, body, territory. I am everything. It is a perception that everyone has. You have it, I have it, everyone has it. It is natural. But this is the perception of religiosity that we all have. This is the perception of religiosity that everyone has. Do you understand? All religions have it. All rituals have it. Do you understand? This is normal. The other thing is inside the skin. Inside the skin, this child will have the scissors, brain connectums that involve the activation of the prefrontal. This is complicated, but it is a treasure. Cut and explore. Come with the magnifying glass. Curious, the curiosity to explore the world, that is treasure. Or stone, it is defending itself, it is attacking, or it is replicating what it knows. So the perception inside the skin of a child, 2 years old, 3 years old, sometimes 4 years old, or sometimes at another time, is precisely these two paths. One perceives transcendence, religiosity. I won't say it is spirituality because sometimes it can be mixed, but it is spiritual, it is open, it is free. Did you notice? Outside. I perceive it as this house, these trees, this path, these things I notice outside. Then it comes back. It comes back to explore, which is treasure. It comes back to do what needs to be done. Your habits, your beliefs, just know. So it is stone. Treasure, I am learning new things. I am exploring new things. When you are exploring, there is a very good author, Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman talks about thinking fast and slow. When you are exploring scissors, you are thinking slowly because it takes time, it is elaborate. When you are replicating stone, you are thinking very fast, it is all automatic, all somatosensory. When you are slow, it is prefrontal. And when you are on paper, this spiritual transcendence, it is basically a strong activity of going to the field and locating yourself in space. It is space. The idea is space. This entire space where I am, how I perceive myself and how I refer to myself in the space that I perceive. This is transcendence. This is so beautiful. I really like this. 3 years, 3 years, bah. Now start with words, not just words in the exact sense, but also semiotics, symbols and words for the baby. Because I have to put a behavior in this baby, in this child, symbols and words. And as I told you, some symbols and words are new. I introduced some new variables to the child with my symbols and words. But you can see that these symbols and words have a restriction on the environment and location. Each place in the house, each place where the baby goes, where certain things happen, has a few more words, a few fewer words, or a few more. So there is an identification with everything that the baby perceived in that place. So the word is a reduction of a perception which was broad, which was much greater than the word itself. But then the word which is this reduction can be placed in several, one after the other. And now it takes on a different meaning. You have sentences, you have a few more ideas. However, at that moment, even at 1 or 2 years old, at times you screamed too much, at times things got bad for you because you wanted something, or your mother moved away, you wanted something, you threw a tantrum, it was a tough time. And in that heavy moment, you felt a threat of death, of interruption of your life, locked up. You kept your word at that moment. This is where things get complicated. You entered a process of fear of having your life interrupted, fear of life being interrupted. That's what you felt when you were 1 or 2 years old. It wasn't fear of the afterlife because that doesn't exist for this child. This subjectivity doesn't reach that. Exactly, fear of life being interrupted. Do you understand? Fear of the pain that you caused, even. She feels that. She doesn't even know if that's a good or bad thing. She tries to position herself in the face of that, and suddenly it hurts. And this pain, she screams, does something else. And fear. So, fear is a strong thing. We humans are all afraid. But real fear, words, place, symbol, real fear stuffed into the child. Imaginary fear can be much greater. The real fear of losing your arm or burning your arm is a strong, very strong fear. But if you imagine what it will be like to burn your arm, the pain and fear are greater when you imagine it. Did you notice? So, one of the parts of you losing spiritual freedom is you focusing on imaginary fears. Religious leaders who put imaginary fear in place to control the attitude of their members. His followers at that moment lock, seal the individuals, their members. They don't let them be free anymore because fear is a way of controlling. Yes, and that's what religions use. Yes, fear. Fear of the thing that is outside. Let's go. The layers of this symbol, of this reduction that I make of the entire layer of spirituality as being the idea, the spirit of the thing, the sense, the essence of the thing is the spirit. You have a layer inside them. The spirit inside you can simply be a flash of an idea. It can be an idea. It can be a sequence of words. Look, it's getting better. And symbols and words, ideas, habits. Look at the spirit of this referee, the act of waking up early in the morning. He has a youthful spirit or a hard-working spirit. I don't know if you notice the habits, then it evolves a little. beliefs, habits, and beliefs, and then habits and beliefs become much stronger. It's just faith, okay? It's something stronger because it's a high level expertise. Faith, expertise, high level, all professions that greatly require human skills, these individuals are practicing faith in that profession. It has nothing to do with religion. Faith is something that is automatically engraved in your brain. You don't need to think about anything, it just comes out. It's faith. It's natural, okay? And it's important for you to know that the spirit evolves within you. The essence of things evolves within you. Simple things, symbols, sequences of symbols, ideas, thoughts, habits, beliefs, faith, any field, any profession, all these sequences. And any religion too, of course. We're talking about religious terms because that's what it is. And those habits that I told you about before, habits are Yahavim, right? A few lines from Mirindia say it's in Rami. And Rami is this desire of yours. The habit is that you've become this now. I've become a reader, I've become a worker, a writer. At that moment I became. Now I've become a father, now I've become a mother. Do you understand? At that moment you became, you transformed. So in Rami is a habit, it's a transformation. When you move on to belief and faith, you don't even think about it anymore. You're much more automatic. The religious missions were sent to America, the American continent, with capitalist models to dominate the American continent. It's good for you to know that. Quite right. Before 1500, we had much, much, much greater religious diversity. After 1500, oppression. Religious missions basically forcing capitalism into the European mold, capitalism in the European mold, this more dual capitalism, money, interest, something like that, very limiting, very limiting. Prehistoric societies, prehistoric experience, complex forms of social and political organization, sophisticated democracy and egalitarian systems. You see, it used money, yes, but it had other things involved as well. The exchange of goods and services was often regulated by complex rules and not just with money. Did you notice? We did the following with our human history. I told you that you were canned, that I was canned by the lack of choices or the excess of information in the air. Remember that there was the hunter-gatherer era, the agricultural era, the industrial era, the modern era. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. So you'll see in this book here documents and documents showing historical structures that were mixed, sometimes hunter-gatherer, sometimes city-state. It's a mix. It's a complexity. It's not this linear talk that we were hunter-gatherers and now we're in the best system. That's a lie. And in our education, we weren't offered this choice that I'm talking about. It's a lie. There are books, there are tests, there's society, anthropology. This guy, I'll even show it several times. It's an anthropologist who's talking and he's doing well. He's studying well. There are two guys who study this very well. One is already deceased and he shows this history. Man, there was capitalism, a capitalism different from ours. There was democracy, there was equality, and it's seasonal. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it comes. So we're not in a linear evolutionary growth. We could even be outside of evolutionary growth. In the beginning, everything that the idea of you taking it and this idea that the child has, which is their semiotics, then when they reach 4 or 5 years old, they start to imagine even an invisible friend, something like that, because subjectivity is their spirituality and it is their freedom. The religious freedom of an individual is what they created when they were 5 or 6 years old. This is the maximum spiritual freedom of the individual. But they had to give it up to follow another cultural religiosity. So they gave up this religiosity. When does this story of trying to make you afraid of things from outside begin? It's like this, very simple. You're a big guy who controls a bunch of people somewhere in some society, but you can't control those people who go too far. So you impose fear of death on these people and then control the religious people who control this mystical part. Or you need good warriors who are not afraid of death. So you promise these warriors that you impose that they won't be afraid of death, that they will be rewarded after they die. These are two beautiful lies that you control people with. The voids and holes in your life and in my life, the lack of options that you had with these voids and holes domesticated us, left us inside a culture that if you had been born in another continent, you would be totally different. It's good to know that. So when you do whatever you do as a follower soul, you are losing this essence of free spirituality. You have to look for more options of words, ideas, reading more options of facts, versions, because otherwise you are restricted in your options and you are always choosing between 5 or 7 options and thinking that you are having freedom when, in fact, you are being massified by what does not appear in your information bubble. And you become more and more closed, more canned, without spiritual freedom. Guys, this is what I wanted to leave with you this week. Know that you are a transcendent and free being if you allow yourself to be. Or if you want, you can be a follower and be a limited being, and you will limit yourself in words and actions, often mediocre according to what your leader says or what your bubble is telling you.